Both of them are boring, actually. Saudi Arabia is undergoing a deep transformation in both governance and strategic planning, and we are seeing it play out in very tangible ways. And to me, the next chapter isn't just about holding a position. It's about building something uh, that lasts. What pushed me to start posting more actively, especially on topics like geopolitical and compliance and crisis management, was the growing sense that GRC isn't just about internal control anymore, but in the real world, especially in fast moving and heavily regulated industries, things do not always fit neatly into those models. We need to think globally but act locally. My name is Khalid Alshahrani. I currently serve as an executive director of governance, risk, and compliance at a confidential, not announced company yet in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, Jeddah, sorry. Over the past 2 decades, I have worked across various sectors like insurance, healthcare, and investments, uh, leading functions in enterprise risk management, compliance, and internal audit, and corporate governance. What drives me to is building resilience organization ones that can adapt, grow, and meet their obligation without compromising on ethics or integrity. At my current company, I'm fortunate to be a leading not just GRC but also cybersecurity and data governance, bringing these functions together into one integrated model. Uh, I'm looking forward to share a bit about that journey with you today, and thank you so much. That's a great question, actually. I think the foundation of my career was built on three values: integrity, adaptability, and alignment with purpose. When I started, I was focused mainly on internal audit and risk management. Very early on, I realized that these functions do not exist in silos. They affect people, operations, and strategy. So I made like an integration decision to go beyond technical tasks and focus on building trust and structure across the organization. That's what naturally pulled me into compliance and governance, and later cybersecurity and data protection as well. What helped me integrate these areas is understanding the governance, risk, compliance, cybersecurity, and data protection. They are all part of the same conversation. They are not separated lenses, and they are all connected by questions. Are we doing the right thing? I'd say one of the biggest challenges was balancing theories with reality. When you are pursuing qualification like MBA or certification in risk management or compliance or audit, you are exposed to structured frameworks and best practices. But in the real world, especially in fast moving and heavily regulated industries, things do not always fit neatly into those models. So the challenge was just getting the knowledge, it was learning how to translate or translate it into action in environments that were often under pressure, political complex, and or going through major change. Another challenge was keeping perspectives. It's easy to get caught up in a title or credential, But for me, it was never about collecting certification. It was about building a mindset, uh, one that helps me see the risk from a business lens, communicate also with a leadership, and make decisions that are both practical and responsible. Uh, there were times when I had implement new frameworks in organization that had no structure in place. Times when I was building GRC functions from scratch while also studying and upgrading my own skills. That meant long hours of studying, consistent learning, and lot of trial and errors. But hindsight, I'm glad that I took that path so far, and because it taught me the real credibility does not come from theory alone. It comes from applying it, adapting it, and sometimes challenge it based on what the business really needs. Building on the national risk unit's strategy framework with a vision 2030, where it plays a central role in identifying and assessing and mitigating risk to economy, society, and national security. The next major evaluation, or let's say evolution, for Saudi Arabia will likely focus on three interconnected dimensions: resilience mega projects and integrated governance. Saudi giga projects like NEOM, like Red Sea, and Qiddiya and Diriyah are scaling up rapidly, ensuring that these developments are not only visionary but sustainable, socially inclusive, and professionally governed. Quite a new layer of integrated risk management and regulatory oversight and across sector coordination. Second is sustainability and climate adoption, with a big investment in solar and like Domat Al Jandal and goal of 50% renewable by 2030. Saudi is shifting toward circular carbon economy and managing environmental impact, water scarcity, and heat waves of coastal resilience in becoming essential. Beyond non-oil growth, the focus is now turning to artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and exporting higher value of industries. These will require stronger governance in data privacy, cyber risks, public-private partnership, and development local talent to sustain the transformation. What pushed me to start posting more actively, especially on topics like geopolitical and compliance and crisis management, was the growing sense that GRC isn't just about internal control anymore. It's about understanding the world around you. When you are in a leadership position in governance, risk, or compliance, your job isn't just to follow rules, it's to anticipate shocks, prepare for the uncertainty, and protect the organization integrity in a fast changing environment. So I started writing about those topics. What I already thinking about, I use LinkedIn as a space to connect the dots. For example, how the war in Ukraine reshaped supply chain risks, or how the Iran and Israel tensions might affect the region investments and compliance exposure. Uh, the inspiration also comes from seeing a gap in the conversations. Uh, Many people post about GRC in technical way. I wanted to bring a real life relevant. What does it means when a country faces sanctions, for example? What are the board's responsibility during an ESG crisis? How should an organization in the Middle East respond to cyber threats triggered by political conflict? And I think people uh, resonated with the because it's honest. I don't treat compliance or risk or geopolitical as a separate. I treat them all in interlink that leaders today cannot afford to ignore. Uh, that's what I try to reflect in my content. Absolutely, Saudi Arabia is undergoing a deep transformation in both governance and strategic planning, and we are seeing it play out in very tangible ways. Traditionally, governance in the region was more administrative and reactive, but under Vision 2030, it's shifting toward something more insufficient, let's say, forward-looking and risk-aware. What uh, what that means is practice is growing emphasis on transparency, accountability, and integrated decision making at both in the public and private sector. From compliance perspective, this transformation is driven by two forces: the need to attract and protect investment, especially with influx and of global partners in sectors like tourism, like tech, like infrastructure. The commitment to build a performance-driven government that can deliver on national priorities without being exposed to ethics or operational breakdown. On the strategic planning side, we are seeing a rise of national units like the National Risk Unit, strategic management offices like SMO and PIF governance ecosystems. These are not just reporting bodies, they are shaping how decisions are made, how risks are managed, and how long term priorities are set. Uh, and, 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 and of course, track it as well. Uh, Geopolitical plays directly into these. When you are building a 500 billion project like NEOM, you need a governance model that can uh, uh, absorb those external shocks while maintaining internal integrity. So yes, Saudi Arabia transformation isn't just about infrastructure or economy. It's also about building a resilient, rule-based, and strategical aligned governance model. Would you work in a governance or risk, or especially in the region like ours, uh, that undergoing such rapid transformation? You cannot afford to look at things thought or narrow lenses. يعني, the diversity in approach, whether it's integrating political, geopolitical awareness, regulatory shifts, or long-term strategy, isn't just useful; it's necessary. Saudi Arabia isn't operating in isolation. It's positioning itself on the global stage, which means that we need to think globally but act locally. Uh, that's why I try to connect the dots between compliance, national strategy, risk culture, and even social and political trends. Because at the end of the day, all of the feeds into how we govern and how we plan and how we live. Yeah, let's say one of the most creative approaches I have seen and actually been part of was a company that didn't treat risk as a function, but as a storytelling tool. Instead of presenting a risk register full of red, yellow, green, or heat map to the board, they turned risk events into real life cases, narrative, tied directly to financial and reputational impact. For example, instead of saying we've we have a privacy risk, they've walked leadership through a simulated incident. Imagine for example, let's say, imagine it's Monday morning and we just found out that customer database with 1,500,000 records was exposed online. Legal and reviewing PR is scrambling. Regulators are asking for any explanation. What do you do now? That was the presentation, not not a chart, not a separate sheet, just a realistic high pressure situation to provoke thinking and alignment. Uh, what made it powerful uh, wasn't just the creativity. It was that it got the board engaged. They saw the real world implication and they started to ask smarter questions. It shifted risk from being a compliance checkbox to a strategic rehearsal or decision making under pressure. From that, we were able to build a stronger response plans, better coordination between teams, and more mature decisions around trade-offs, like how much risk we could absorb and what risk uh, we were taking. For me, the most unusual yani, but effective risk strategy isn't just about tools or models. It's about getting people to care. If you can do that, you've already won a half of the battles يعني, in risk management. If I had to choose يعني, one certification that I really stood out to me, not just for the content, but for how it shifted my mindset. It would be the uh, the strategic foresight executive program. It wasn't just about risk or compliance. It was about anticipating change, reading weak signals, and understanding how uncertainty shaped long-term planning. Uh, that kind of thinking is rare in technical fields like governance or audit, where we usually looking at what already happened or let's say what currently at risk. But with strategic foresight, you are challenged to think 10 to 20 years ahead, build scenarios, and ask questions like, what if this trend, uh, uh, let's say, accelerated? What if that assumption failed? It for it forces you to go beyond control. Studying that was surprising because it pushed me out of the usual black and white mindset. It made me more comfortable working in the gray areas, as we said, and that where the most real leadership decisions happen. Since then, I've applied that way of thinking not only in building risk strategies, but in board discussions as well, crisis management, and even in shaping department structure. It's one of these programs that doesn't sit in a drawer. It shows it shows up in how you think, how you lead, and the challenges and the status quo. Uh, so while I'm value of all my certification, especially in risk or audit or compliance, SFE يعني, I was the one that really add the most depth and opened a new way of seeing the future. To me, the next chapter isn't just about holding a position. It's about building something uh, that lasts, something that shapes how organizations in the region understand governance, risk, and resilience, not just for compliance's يعني sake, uh, but as a core part of how they grow and lead. If I have to define one standard I want to push forward, it would be a true integration. I don't want GRC or cybersecurity or privacy or data privacy and strategy planning to live in silos anymore. I want to help create and unified framework, one that aligns vision, accountability, technology, and ethics under a single umbrella. Uh, that actually supports decision making, not just reporting. Uh, what next for me is, let's say, mentoring and build future leader in GRC because we need more local experts. Bridging the private and the public sector also, help them work together to manage systematic risks and create, let's say, shared value, and eventually shaping the national policy framework where risk governance and oversight becomes part of how governments plan, not just react. The industry is changing fast. We have seen the artificial intelligence, geopolitical, ESG, stakeholders pressure. It's all rewriting what leadership means. From my perspective, my goal is not just responding to it, يعني, but helping shaping it in a way that practical, sustainable, and regionally grounded. If I can leave يعني, behind a culture where GRC is seen not as a control mechanism, يعني, that's my aim, but as a strategic assets. I consider that a worthwhile legacy for me. Risk mitigation. So I believe in owning the risk, understanding it, and reducing it where it matters most. Definitely, it will be. I'll pick a governance framework. A compliance checklist tells you what to take. A governance framework tells you why it matters, who's accountable, and how decisions are made. It's the difference between following the rules and actually, let's say, leading with purpose. I will go with internal assurance because it's continuous. uh, embedded and close to the business. External assurance is important of validation. Uh, but real resilience, I mean, comes from building a culture where assurance is a part of everyday mindset, uh, not just an annual exercise. That's what I believe. Yani. I will choose the ethics committee. But I would go for the voluntary ESG because when the organization chooses to do the right thing, not because it has to, but because it believes in it, uh, that's when I think ESG becomes part of the culture, not just a reaction or a rule. I think I would go with the cultural alignment because policy without a culture are just a document. But when the culture supports the right behaviors, enforcement because natural, yani, you don't need to police that what people already believe in. Yani, that's why I believe. Definitely the Vision 2030 alignment, because short-term KPIs can show quick wins, but without long-term alignment, uh, uh, you risk moving fast in the wrong direction. يعني Vision gives you a purpose. The KPIs should serve that, not replace it. Of course, I will go with a human-led governance here. Uh, with AI support as a support tools, not a decision maker. Uh, Governance need judgmental thing sense that it's not in the machines. Uh, Ethics, like accountability, that you cannot embed in a machine. I guess so. Things that AI cannot fully replace it. AI can enhance decision making, yes, but the responsibility must always stay with people. I my perception, yani, regarding AI. Let's go back to AI. I don't think AI will give you that kind of humanity interaction. Uh, so I will go with brainstorming for sure. Who's I'm facing? I choose empowering from behind for sure, yani, because real leaders isn't about being the loudest voice um, or being aggressive. It's about building other up. Yeah. Of course, 6 a.m. I'm a morning guy. I mean, I definitely go with zero unread messages because for me, clarity and follow through matters. I like to stay on the top of things, Danny. Respond promptly and keep communication following. Both of them are boring, actually. No, no, no offense. I'll say coffee with compliance because compliance people always come, yeah, with best stories, real cases, يعني, because they are handling, for example, the whistleblowing, the anti-fraud. It's good to have a conversation with him to know what's going on. To IFM expos and يعني, thank you so much again for creating a space for that. I'm really looking forward. to meet you guys and to continue on this kind of dialogue with the community. Thank you so much.